Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to do a quick Hydroid guy before he gets rework, mainly to archive, the past, so we know what we're talking about when we play him, right? I want to do this quick because I'm gonna like 30 minutes off before his rework comes out, like 11:30. So, anyways, so we're gonna go across his abilities real quick. So, his passive. Slam attacks have a 50% chance to summon a tentacle. His tentacles are his 4, and you just get a 50% chance to do it on a melee slam attack. Whatever, don't really care. Um, his Tempest Barrage, to best describe it, it's like he has water cannonballs that wherever your cursor is pointed when you activate the ability, that's where they'll land, and they do plenty of splash damage. And with his augment, you can get them to do corrosive, making him to be a decent armor strip if you build him that way, but most people aren't using it that way currently. However, when his rework comes out, this will be a bit different. Overall, this is actually not his worst ability. I'm going to be completely honest. It's not his worst ability. It's kind of funny. His second ability, Tidal Surge. He basically becomes a wave, like a like like an ocean wave. And he knocks down any enemies that aren't like over guarded. Um, and he does a little bit of damage. He can move pretty fast with it, and he can cover a good distance. So it's pretty nice overall. I mean, mine goes 45 meters a second. It's insanely fast. Like it's so fast. But it's kind of a whatever ability. It's a movement ability. It's not the greatest, but it is what it is. Undertow. Undertow, he becomes a puddle. And that's about as interesting as it sounds. He becomes a puddle, and while he is underwater, he can basically, you can use his attack button to drag other people down with him, and so when he grabs them, they start drowning underwater, and that's kind of how the ability works. He's a puddle, and he moves extraordinarily slow in this. So much so that this one ability makes people not want to play him. Um, Now, onto his fourth ability. Tentacle Swarm. Tentacle Swarm, he has a 4 where he does a long-ass cast time, and some tentacle arms come up, and they start grabbing people, they launch people in the air, they swing them around, slam them on the ground, does some damage, and that's that. Okay? I think we're all on the same page. That's Hydroid. That's all of his abilities. Now we're going to go talk about his augments real quick. So, we're going to go to his augments and upgrade. I run 2 augments on him, mainly because I like the playstyle of this. This isn't like a really crazy build for him. I've not even got like a organ reactor or whatever in him, so this is kind of just a throwaway Hydroid because I just want to test him for the rework. So we have Tidal Impunity. This is for his second augment, or his second ability, and when he becomes a tidal wave, he essentially gives people an immunity to all status effects, so bleed, toxin, fire, heat, cold, whatever. It's a pretty cool thing. It's essentially like a budget rolling guard. So it's kind of cool for that regards. And you can spread it to teammates. And it also reduces the cost of the ability, so you can spam it a bit more, which is kind of cool. Yeah, overall, it's kind of a cool ability. It's just budget rolling guard. It costs like 3 points less. So yeah. Then you have, I'm not even trying to pronounce that. His Undertow Augment. Basically, when he turns into a puddle, he can heal his teammates for 30% per second. Well, it's about per second. It's closer to about 2 seconds. So basically in 6 seconds he'll have healed a teammate by like 90%. It's actually pretty strong for like low level content, and it also heals him 10% during 10% per second during his time, which is fine, even though it sounds like it heals him less. Because you're an Undertow, you really can't take damage. Like, no one can hurt you unless like it's a disruptor. Like, there's no one who can really like hurt you when you're in this form. Now, go to his other augments. We have the Coating Barrage. This is what I was talking about earlier, where you can make it do corrosive damage, so it can armor strip, and it gains 100% ability strength. Again, this is actually one of his better abilities. It's just kind of funny. This is, with this on, his first ability can do some pretty insane damage. and it can do some serious armor stripping as well on top of that. So do not sleep on this augment. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter now because you're getting your rework, but I think this is not going to change. I think this is this will stay the same, or at the very least, this is actually getting reworked into his first ability. So we'll see how that works out. I don't really know all too much about his rework, other than that it's going to be like corrosive base, and he's going to be armor stripping all the time, which is cool. Pilfering Swarm. Basically, when you use his 4, which is the tentacles, enemies that are being grabbed by the tentacles now have a 100% chance to drop items. So this is essentially your pillage, not pillage, like your whip claw or your strangle dome augment. This is your whatever Necros does. I forget. I can't think of the name right now. I'm trying to do this as fast as possible. And that's essentially his augments. I'm gonna go get some gameplay of his abilities.
There is a large platoon of Grineer Marines stationed here. Leave no one standing. Broken. Well done. Now get to extraction.
thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for watching that shoddy gameplay. Now I want to talk about my thoughts on what I would like to see the changes to rework actually be. Not that these are going to be the changes, this is what I would prefer, or I would like to see. So first off, I think the cannonball splashes, I think that's fine. Give it armor strip, and I actually think if you made it so this ability just armor stripped, and that's all it did, and do some like knockback and just kind of like send people like falling over or whatever, that'd be great. I think that'd be actually really good, and I think his passive, which I think would be really cool, scales in say armor strength or something like that, where every bit of armor he strips or shield he strips or something like that gets replaced onto him as overguard, so he can tank properly. Now, I know that already sounds pretty strong if you just make him an armor stripping character and then you make his passive literally his kit. That's pretty strong. I get that, and Overguard is in a really strong state right now. I don't think Overguard needs a nerf. I think Overguard gives people a way to play a game without having to, essentially just get ass raped all the time. So, I think Overguard for Hydroid should be something to consider, and just giving him like just massive amounts of armor strip on pretty much all of his abilities, or just a few of them, and all his armor stripping gives him Overguard. I think that'd be a great way to play him. I think it'd be a really cool idea, because you're like plundering their armor if you want to talk about it that way. Now, his second ability is really good. However, my problem with it is it fails. It fails miserably because of his third ability. His third ability and his second ability should be the same ability. And I say this because Tidal Wave and his Undertow should also be armor stripping. So, what I mean these should be the same ability is that you should only be able to use your Tidal Surge if you're in Undertow. And make Undertow move, like a normal speed without having to use Tidal Surge, because this is the only way to actually move around in Undertow is by using Tidal Surge. That's the only way to move around with any meaningful speed. If you saw in my gameplay, that's how it worked. Just how it works. I didn't make up the rules. It's just how it works. So if you made Tidal Surge like his bullet jump or his roll or whatever, his slide, and then you put that on Undertow, we have an ability. Again, that could be this could be his passive. It doesn't have to be Overguard, like I said before. This could be a passive. If you just make it like a bullet jump, who knows? That could be a cool passive. But it comes with like the knockdown effects, like on it still. Great, that's cool. It really plays into his whole water effect, where he's kind of just watery, I guess. I don't know how to describe that, but and then you have Undertow, so that way you can move around at like say like a normal running speed with Undertow, and if you need to clear areas, you can just bullet jump in a direction, and it'll take you that direction because of how Tidal Surge is now his new bullet jump. Just little stuff like that. That would make Undertow so much better. I like Undertow. I like the puddle. It's cool. It's unique. And they're getting rid of it in the rework. I know that much. And I think it's sad. I'm going to miss the puddle. Now his 4. His 4, the tentacle arms. This, in my opinion, is probably one of the weirdest parts of his kit. Because it's not great. It's not got good damage. I mean, you can build it for good damage, to be fair. But, like, you're building it around one ability. And you're probably going to be sub-zooming other things. Like, you're probably going to have, like, pull or air burst or whatever, just suck them all up. And what people usually do for the damage is that they'll like cast it underneath them, so that way that first bit of damage does just like a ass ton of damage, because it does a lot of damage on the initial burst, and then it does like the little bit of damage afterwards. But the first like launch of it all is a fuck ton of damage. So that's how people build this for damage. It's not good. It's just not good. And sure, you have his augment, but that doesn't change the fact that it's not good. You're only running his augment because you're farming, but there's also other farming frames in the game, and frames that do it way better, other than just casting a shitty 4 that's going to take a lot of energy. Necros does this way better. Korra does this way better, and so on. I don't know why this is even in the game. I think it's a cool ability, to be fair. I'm not gonna downplay that at all. It's just it doesn't do enough damage. It doesn't do enough damage, and I can't justify this existing. That's my opinion. But like I said, The rework I would really like to see is his 2 and 3 be the same ability, and if we got both of the augments, like the augments stayed the same, and you could stack them because they're now the same ability. If you got Tidal Impunity, and you got the Undertow augment, that'd be so epic, because now he's like, not only do you make him an armor stripper, you also make him, you know, an actual like buffer for the team. So say you when you armor strip someone, it applies to your team or whatever. Like, that would make him such a strong character. He'd be a team character. You could do endlesses with him. You could do just easy runs with him and just building stacks while you're going through the level. It's just, he would be so much of a better character if you made him an armor stripper with overguard, and he buffs his team with augments. With his augments, you just buffed his team. If you did that, he'd be a better character, and that's what I'd really like to see. Overguard, Hydroid, that buffs his team. Is that too much to ask for? Maybe. I don't know. You guys tell me if you like my ideas. Maybe you don't. Maybe you think they're ass. That's cool too. The next clip we'll get is of the rework. See you then. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. And guess what? The Hydroid rework is out. It's epic. It's amazing. It's really good. So good I even felt comfortable taking him into Steel Path, and that's without like any sub zooms, augmentation, you know, Archon crystal, stuff like that. So he is really strong right now, and I'm loving it. You guys probably will too, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But let's get into his abilities, because some of his stuff got severely reworked. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into that. So his passive. This passive change is so goddamn strong. So basically, when he damages enemies, they take more damage to corrosion damage, which now corrosion damage basically is just armor stripping. So they take more damage to armor stripping, and they lose 50% of their armor on the initial status. That is such an insanely strong passive. Like, this passive alone makes him really good, like insanely good. Yeah, this passive is amazing. Now we're going to go to his first ability. So, Tempest Barrage, it's not really changed much, but instead of corrosion damage, which is still corrosion, but it's more, like, we gotta change it from corrosion to armor stripping, because that's what it is now. This thing is extremely good at armor stripping. At base, it's 300, which doesn't sound like a lot, until you realize, basically, like, 2 to 3 blasts with a base, like, unupgraded, is enough to armor strip, like, Steel Path enemies. This ability is super strong, like, insanely so. You can make a whole build around this one ability right now, and it's great. That's all I have to say about this ability. It's just good. Tidal Surge hasn't really changed much. It's better now though, because now it counts for armor stripping. So you can basically pile drive your enemies into a wall and then armor strip them. And if you get your drain really low, you can kind of just spam this over and over again. And since you're basically immune while you're in it, it's a good way to get away from enemies as well as armor stripping. So make use of this. It's really strong. Use it. Now, Plunder. So this is his new ability. It's so new, in fact, he doesn't even have a video for it. If you notice, the other ones, they all have videos. This one doesn't. That's how new it is. So how this ability works is that he basically just armor strips. He does like an AoE armor strip, and every enemy affected by it gets their armor reduced. They take more damage from corrosive, and he also gets armor back, meaning he becomes tankier. He's a tank with it. So if you guys remember when I was talking about my overguard change, I wanted something kind of like this. This isn't overguard, so it's not as strong as it could be, because this is just flat up armor, so you can just tank more. So having a vitality Hydroid build could be a really interesting way to play if you don't want to run like adaptation, stuff like that, or adaptation, rage even. Those would be really cool mods to run. You can get a cool build out of it with this, and with his augment, we get health back. That's cool. That's cool. But we'll get into augments in a bit. But yeah, this is a really strong ability. I was actually extremely impressed. The damage values you can get off of this are pretty insane. Tentacle Swarm. Tentacle Swarm is relatively unchanged. Now enemies take corrosive damage, aka armor strip, and they kind of just stand still. They don't like wobble around anymore, and it's actually better. So in the previous, the way it would work is that you had it was kind of iffy radius. It would be like, oh, 5 to 15. It would be like 10 to 20 tentacles. Now it's just flat 15, it's flat 20, and you can increase the radius, but you can't increase the number of tentacles. So what you'll notice is that when you cast it, it looks like there's more tentacles. That's because there is. The chance of you getting 20 tentacles before was extremely low. Now it's guaranteed, so which means you're going to see a lot more tentacles. And since the radius has been removed from like 5, 10, 15, and it just stays at 15, it also looks bigger, so you get more enemies caught up in it. This is a way better ability now. Use it. It is actually really viable now, and I would highly recommend actually using this. It's good for like locking down points, choke points. He's good on defense now. Yeah, use him. He's really good. Now we're going to go get to his augments and talk about what's changed and what hasn't. So we're going to go to upgrades. This is a very shoddy build that I came up with. This is the same Hydroid, by the way, that I didn't have a reactor on. Now I do. This is a no forma build either, so you can copy this. This is a very cheap build. The only thing I would really say that I would really want other than this is if I can get maybe adaptation here. That'd be kind of cool, and prime flow. Everything else is completely suitable. I'm only running corrosive projection because we're already trying to armor strip, so this just gives us technically more armor strip without actually having to armor strip. So I think that's kind of cool. Anyways, so let's talk about his augments. So his first augment is this. Relatively unchanged. It is essentially the same thing. It's actually better now because of the first ability being good. It does solid damage. It did solid damage before, but now because it does that armor strip, it does extremely well. You apply the viral, so now they're completely stripped of armor, and they have viral. They're dead. They're just dead. They're just dead. So this is actually kind of really worth running now. Check it out. Now we're gonna go to his second ability. So second augment is the same exact thing. It's just rolling guard essentially. I still use it because for one, it reduces the cost of the tidal surge, and we get immunity, so I don't have to run rolling guard. So the cheap rolling guard, I'm gonna keep using it. Now this is his new augment. So the plunder augment. So basically, it gains 50% more corrosive damage, and it heals you and nearby allies for 50 health. That scales with strength. The healing scales with strength. So that's really cool, and that's all I have to say about it. It's basically about as good as we're going to get. I still missed the puddle though. Good ability, but I missed the puddle. Pilfering Swarm is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Didn't change at all. I'm fine with that. If anything, it's actually better now because the ability itself is just better now, which means you're going to get more drops, meaning he's actually better at farming. God damn, I don't know what the fuck I just did, but god damn. Okay, but yeah, he's just going to be better now because the ability's better now, meaning he's a better farmer, actually. What you could do is just increase the radius and duration, so we can get more people caught up in the tentacles and get more farming out of it. So if you want to do a farming build, Pilfering Swarm, that's how I'd recommend. So you're going duration and range, and that's pretty much how you would do that. Augur Reach isn't really necessary because we don't really have a good way to replenish energy. Obviously you can use your energy arcanes or whatever, but that's the one downside about this build, because plunder costs a lot of energy. Even with my my maxed out base flow, we're only getting what is it, 380 it says? I'm pretty sure it's more than that, but whatever. But anyways, so yeah, you're constantly needing energy. That's a downside. Objectively, that's kind of the biggest issue. You're constantly energy, especially if you're using any of your like energy intensive abilities. Tidal Surge you can kind of keep spamming because of just the augment, and it's super cheap. So yeah, there you guys go. This is a cool build. If you guys want to check it out, go ahead. It's not super great, but I got this build to work in Steel Path. So even with a shitty build like this, Hydroid is Steel Path viable. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Accept your death, and you may yet avoid it. Trust in your training.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. The enemy is broken. Well done. Now get to extraction.
A valuable lesson.